My job is to somehow make them curious enough or persuade them by hook or crook to get more aware of themselves and where they came from and what they are into and what is already there, and just to bring it out. This is what compels me to compel them, and I will do it by whatever means necessary.
Welcome to the Black Girls Heal podcast, where we talk about healing our intimacy disorders, unresolved trauma, and building a healthy relationship with first ourselves and then others. Every episode, we will talk about advice you can apply today to break unhealthy patterns and grow in your self-worth. I'm Shena, love addiction coach and trauma specialist. Let's begin. Hello, lovelies, and welcome to the latest episode of Black Girls Heal. I'm sending all of you love as always. So today's episode, I posted on the BJ's Instagram and Facebook what people would like to hear about for a topic for this week. I haven't done one of those in a long time. And so I got a list of comments, and what I thought I would do today, instead of picking one and going deep, is to use them as a Q&A. So today's topics, we have a comment about ghosting, have one about effectively co-parenting when you still have feelings for your co-parent. So those are the ones I'm going to get into today. So if those sound like things you want to hear about, I would love for you to stay with us today. And of course, as always, if it's something that you feel like a loved one needs to hear, to pass it off to him, her, or them. And yeah, let's go ahead and get into it. Thanks for listening to this week's podcast. Before we get started, let's take a small break to say thank you to this week's sponsors. So before I get too far into this podcast episode, I want to drop a friendly reminder that Black Girls Heal is for people who identify as love addicts, love avoidance, and love anorexics, aka those who struggle with love deprivation. So these three are intimacy disorders. So we are the type of people, those who this podcast is for, where beyond all common sense, beyond all rationale, beyond the commitments we've told to ourselves, to other people, no matter what our therapist says, no matter what prayers we've committed to, what we've asked for spiritual support with, we can continue to have the same romantic, friendship, and familial relationship issues over and over again. We find ourselves consistently in relationships with people who are unavailable, or we are unavailable ourselves. And again, no matter what we have tried, we find that we continue to go to those same patterns. And it's very frustrating. It really plays on our sense of self-worth, that there's something wrong with us, if we're fatally flawed, if we're always going to be this way, all of that stuff. And I started this podcast as someone who has been in recovery for love addiction and love anorexia and love avoidance and all the things that come along with that, codependency and everything. And even though I was actively a therapist who was trained in marriage and family therapy, still struggling with those issues myself, I started this podcast once I learned about those phrases. I learned about the background of it. I learned about how this is all a trauma response. And this has nothing to do with willpower. It has nothing to do with people trying to shame you or criticize you into changing your behaviors. It has everything to do with your relationship with yourself, with what you see that you're worth, with your ability to not only point out things that are red flags, but for you to start to have a belief system that lets you know that red flags are not normal, that they don't have to be normal. And that takes a lot of faith. It takes a lot of courage. It takes a lot of moments when you have to suspend your belief that what you've always thought to be right and what your mama said is right and what your girlfriend said is right and what your favorite teachers that you've listened to forever have said is right. Maybe there's a different way. Maybe what you have believed has been working for you because is what you needed in the past to help you stay safe, is what helped you stay functional in relationships and in families and in settings that were not safe for you. But as you're stepping into a new chapter that is built on you getting to live in abundance, you getting to live in love, you getting to live in relationships that are secure and healthy for you, what used to work for you before, the mindsets, the actions, the behaviors, the patterns, you can't take with you. And so the courage and the bravery and the faith is you learning how to step out and do things differently than what you've done before. You learning how to challenge those automatic beliefs that you know is true, and saying, well, what if it wasn't true? What if this anxiety that I have, what if this self-doubt that I have, what if this distrust that I have is based in trauma and I'm not actually seeing as clearly as I think that I am. So this whole podcast, all the programs, all the coaching, all the resources that we have around it are built to help women heal from that and to unlearn all these things that no longer fit us, so that we can step into being healed and loved women, so that we can step into being love balanced, love available, and connected to our love worthiness. So I say that disclaimer because most of the time, the good advice and the just think this and just love yourself and all the stuff that people have told us our whole lives don't fit for us because of that trauma background, because of what we have learned. And so I teach and I talk to those of us who need this differently, that need to have those truths of our background acknowledged so that we can move forward. So if you are someone who's securely attached, or you don't relate to love addiction or love avoidance or love deprivation, you may listen to this and be like, girl, you don't need all that, or just do this. And 9 times out of 10, that might be really good advice. But again, because of our trauma background and because of the really deeply inlaid patterns of behaviors that we've had our whole life, it's not that simple. And so everyone is free to stay and listen. And if I've hit on something that you're like, that's my story, I hope that the feedback that I give here helps you, or again, helps someone in your circle down the road if you share this podcast with them. So with all that said, let's start with the first question, which is about when you get ghosted. So most of the people who I'm going to answer questions for did not actually ask a question. They just listed a topic. So I'm going to build a question around it. So I hope this hits at the heart of what you're asking. So the first person said, when you get ghosted. So the question I'm going to build around this is, how do you cope when you get ghosted? So when I think about ghosting in the context of you being a love addict, because I think about if you're struggling with love avoidance, most likely you're the person doing the ghosting. So you're the one who is on the giving side of the ghosting. But if you're struggling with love addiction and you are really liking someone and then they disappear, that can be very devastating, or that is very devastating. If you find yourself that you are either trauma bonded to someone already, or as a love addict, you've already started to build this fantasy about who this person is, about your lifestyle together, about being boyfriend, girlfriend, or girlfriend, girlfriend, or partner, whatever your makeup is. And you are emotionally connecting to them. You are holding space with them. You may even be having sex with them, and then they disappear. It feels like you're losing a piece of yourself. And if not a piece of yourself, a piece of the hope that you may have with dating. When I hear from people who talk about how dissatisfied they are with the dating scene, for the most part, it's not even necessarily just the fact that they aren't in a committed partnership at this point. Is more so facing the constant rejection or ending of something that they thought would be something bigger is so discouraging. And it really constantly chips at, is there something good for me? Is this possible for me? Does this exist? And it makes that hope bubble get smaller and smaller and smaller, if not burst completely. And so ghosting really does a number on your ability to hope for something better and your ability to believe that even though you know that you're worthy and you know that you're deserving, will somebody else ever meet you with the respect that you deserve to communicate to you, to tell you either way, yes, I want to move forward, or no, I don't want to move forward, without leaving you and abandoning you. So if that fits your story, here's the feedback or the advice I want to give you. The first is, it's so important to pay attention to signs. I feel like as I've talked about this a little bit more recently, in my teaching, I wonder if people have been getting teaching either from me or from other teachers or just from society in general about when people tell you to pay attention to signs, it makes it feel like this is your fault. When like it's your fault that you're getting with people that are mistreating you. And that's not the case at all. People's bad behavior, their disrespect, their disingenuousness, I don't know if that's the right word, their flakiness, their deception is all on them. That is all their character flaws. That is all evidence of how they are really messed up individuals. That has nothing to do with you. What my encouragement to when I say that is me trying to validate you paying attention to your gut level response. Is me trying to help you tap back into that inner voice that says for a split second before you discount it, I don't like that. That part of you that has learned how to give people the benefit of the doubt, to give people grace, to say, oh, they're probably shy, or they got a lot going on right now, or better yet, I'm not really looking for anything serious anyways. All of the BS that we've learned over the years to try to soften and cushion all of these micro and macro ways that people will abandon us and reject us. All the stuff that we built in, I'm trying to chip through that for you to know that your first intuition about what you want and how you want to be treated is right. That you are not asking for too much, that you are not tripping, that we're not like in a modern society, so things have changed. Respect, attention, adoration, care, love have not changed over the generations. What that looks like, someone being respectful of you, your time, your body, your energy, your mind, your emotions, that's consistent. Someone letting you know that they love you and they care about you and that they are intentional about pursuing you, that's consistent. Whether or not the mechanism is through letters from decades or, generations ago, or through text messages or through DMs, the containers may change, but the actions are the same. And so when I talk about paying attention to signs, I talk about you, and this is the general you, us being able to look at what are characteristics of consistency that show me that a potential partner is consistent, that lets me know that a potential partner is trustworthy, to let me know that a potential partner will be protective of me and love me. And one of those signs is whether or not that they are present. And so sometimes you get to see those things at the beginning and you don't really pay attention to it. They tell you things like, well, I work a lot and I'm really busy. I'm not really good at the phone. Sometimes it's hard for me to talk about my emotions, but you're different. Don't worry about her. She's my best friend. I'm going through some things right now at work, so I might be quiet a little bit. They tell you, my mama is my best friend. I tell her everything. Like, people be telling us about things a lot. And sometimes, like, I'll use the mama one right now. A man, and I'm talking about heterosexual relationships right now, but this could be across the board. A man having a deep, intimate relationship with his mother can be a good thing. But on the other hand, if we're talking about enmeshment, where his mother is his emotional partner, where he belongs to her and he's not allowed to make moves to stand in his own independence, if he has not ever been emotionally emancipated from her to be able to create his own life, that he wasn't encouraged to be a leader and to think for himself, and the values that she entrusted in him for him to continue to build a legacy of his own, that's where it gets unhealthy, right? Not, he can be securely attached to his mom and talk to his mom all the time, and there's still healthy boundaries there because they are able to be in charge of their own emotions, because they are respectful of each other's identity, because as adults now, as mother and son, they have built a friendship perhaps, but not a emotionally entrenched partnership where if he leaves his mama, she will not be able to survive, right? And so sometimes you don't know that from first conversation, but going back to you paying attention to that inner voice, that inner intuition, is you clocking that gut that's like, that's interesting. I'm going to pay attention to that and then see what unfolds. But how does this connect to ghosting? Sometimes the signs that someone is inconsistent, that they don't really want anything serious, is when they tell you, I don't want anything serious. When they tell you they just want to see where things are going. When they tell you they want to be friends for a while first. When they tell you all this stuff. I mean, that is telling you from the beginning that this is a person that most likely is not, I mean, exactly what he said, actually, that he's not looking for anything serious. No matter what types of serious things he, she, or they do with you, they've told you up front. And so if you continue to move forward, you have to trust what people say in addition to their actions. I think a lot of times us as women across the spectrum, across whatever our sexuality is, we attach emotionally. You know, once we care about someone and we have them in our heart, we are very prone to giving them the benefit of the doubt, and we underestimate the intensity of that connection and how before we even realize it, in our mind, we're like, okay, I'm going to stay boundaried. I'm going to prioritize myself. I'm going to know what I want. And, you know, no one's going to take advantage of me. I'm going to be able to stay open, but I'm going to keep my eyes open. But once somebody has your heart, y'all, all that stuff comes down because it's supposed to. We're supposed to, when we are emotionally attached to someone, have fondness for them, have forgiveness for them, have grace for them. We don't want to beat that out of ourselves because we're too afraid of someone using our kindness against us. So what the goal is to make sure that we only move forward with people who are giving us signs of availability from the beginning and not unavailability. So many of y'all know a few weeks ago, or maybe a month ago now, I did a workshop about relationship goal setting. And in that, I went over our unavailable versus available checklists and the different qualities of both. So how do you know that a friend, a lover, or a family member is available? And how do you know that they're not available? So there are about like 20 characteristics on each side, and I went over each of them. And so afterwards, I had a student reach out to me in our community, and she was like, well, I'm watching the webinar and I'm going over a recent situationship, and this person had signs on the availability list, but also on the unavailability list. So is it possible for people to have both? And I personally think for that exercise, there isn't, but that's because they cancel each other out. So to say this a different way, what I ended up telling my student is the availability characteristics and the unavailability characteristics are not pros and cons. It's not the same as there's a person that you like or that you know, and you're writing out, okay, these are the good things about them and they're the bad things. So whichever list is longer, I can make an educated decision. No, it's about you starting to realize that every single sign that a person is unavailable is a big, glaring red flag danger sign. It is not, if we were to add up, 10 good things about somebody and 6 bad things about somebody from this list, it's not like a difference between, if each quality was worth 10 points, it's not like a difference between 100 and 60, right? They're not both equal to 10. All of the red flags are worth 100. They're worth 100 negative points. So it's really 100 against negative 600, right? But what happens is we look at these really positive, shiny qualities about somebody, and the red flags are like, well, nobody's perfect, and I'll keep an eye on it. No, girl, run. So when you see those things, it's about you saying, this ain't where I'm supposed to be. The other thing is, if it does slip by and everything is super copacetic, things are great, like you honestly don't see anything negative, and then they disappear, that disappearance is negative 100, negative 1,000. I know that especially for those of us who struggle with intimacy disorders, it hits on every single core wound of being abandoned, of being forgotten, of being ignored, and it hits on that core belief that there's something wrong with you. And that's why you got ghosted and you did something wrong. Even when you're trying to be big and mighty, either with your friends or in your journal or with your therapist, and I deserve better and da-da-da-da, that shit still hurts. It hurts. I know it hurts. But the focus on that needs to be shifted to the fact that this person showed you that they are not a protector and that they will abandon you. You do not want someone who does not respect you. You do not want someone who does not see you as precious and as a treasure. You do not want someone who doesn't respect you even as a person to, after they have shared time, energy, and your body with you, to say they're not feeling it or that they met somebody else or that there's something going on. Those are all huge red flags. Who does that? Who takes from someone in that way without communicating from a place of maturity that they're done? And if that's you, my love, I encourage you to look at the fact that there are other human beings on the other side of your experiences with them. That even though you have also gone through things where people, because you don't get to that point without most likely someone taking from you, someone emotionally neglecting you, someone abandoning you in some way, and you built this shell of fuck everybody, or not even you intentionally trying to blow people off, but it's really hard for you to see outside of your own experience, right? Because of trauma. And that could be absolutely true for you. And we want to be very mindful of our relationship karma, that we are leaving people better than we found them, that we're leaving people better for the next person, so that we don't constantly have this giant circle of people going out and dating and getting hurt and their hope being chipped away, and then they're left for the next sister that goes and dates them, and then they're hurt and their hope is chipped away, and then they date somebody else and then they hurt that person, and now everybody's hurt because people are not taking care of your side of the street. You can be in charge of your corner of the world and who you talk to and who you don't talk to. But going back to coping while being ghosted, going back to that, this person has showed you what type of partner they would be. Because I think the problem with ghosting, especially when you don't really care about people who have ghosted you if you don't really like them. You only care about being ghosted if you really started to have feelings with them, and if you started to build something in your mind or in your heart, or maybe y'all were actually building something in your mind and your heart that is now gone. So you're dealing with that heartbreak of something that didn't get a chance to be, or again, it was something and then it got taken away from you. And I just want you to add to the reality of that situation who else this person showed themselves to be. Yes, they were nice. Yes, they were funny. Yes, they were good in bed. Or yes, they, led a Bible study at their church every Sunday. Yes, they had this stuff, but they also showed their character. And the thing about that, the other reason why it's hard to let go of people who are ghosting us is because we think in our mind, in some way, whether we're conscious of it or not, that was the best that we could have, right? Where if you knew that it was possible, if someone disrespected you or dishonored you in that way and left you in that way, and you knew that it was reasonable and possible for you to have a romantic partner or a friend that would not do that and have respect and decency towards you, you would see the foolishness of them and kind of scoff and be like, wow, that's crazy. What's wrong with you? Like, who does that? You would be talking with the same energy I'm talking about it right now. Versus if there's a part of you that's like, I keep attracting people who don't love me, and there must be something wrong with me. There must be something wrong with what's going on, what I have to bring to the table, or what I'm attracting. You're going to personalize somebody else's trauma and their bad behavior that has nothing to do with you. They were doing this way before you. That's the thing. Sometimes in our trauma, we get so self-focused in our own silos. So every single bad or neglectful thing that somebody else does, we make it about us. So we're like, they're doing this to me because of me, versus they learned how to do that from their mama. They learned how to do that from their daddy. They learned how to do that from the bullying on the playground. They learned how to do that from the emotional abuse that they experienced their whole life. It has nothing to do with you. So don't make other people's bad behavior and trauma about you. Focus on yourself, what you deserve, who you are, and what you want and what your standards are. Okay? I hope that helps. Spring is here, y'all, and it's time for some spring cleaning. In addition to getting your home in order, now is the time to make sure you're taking care of your body as well. Getting your annual checkups, biannual dentist appointments, meeting with your specialist, your well woman exam, and more. Remember, prevention is the best medicine. ZocDoc is the only free app that lets you find and book doctors who are patient reviewed, take your insurance, are available when you need them, and treat almost every condition under the sun. Surprise Twist may work for your favorite TV shows, but maybe not for medical care. With ZocDoc, there are no alarms and no surprises. Choose from thousands of patient-reviewed doctors and specialists, browse doctor profiles, upload and verify your insurance information, and get the care you need. Go to ZocDoc.com/BGH and download the ZocDoc app for free. Then find and book a top-rated doctor today. Many are available within 24 hours. That's ZocDoc.com/BGH. ZocDoc.com/BGH. Hey, we hope you're enjoying the podcast so far. Let's take a quick break to say thanks to this week's sponsors. The second question about co-parenting tips when you're still in love with the other person and the other person is not in love with you. This is a big doozy. So I'm going to try to talk about this from the realm that I teach here, which is love addiction and love avoidance. So for this example, then I'm going to assume that you were in a love addictive relationship with someone who is avoidant and unavailable to you. Y'all had a child together, and this person is continuing to be unavailable. So maybe the same things that were happening in your relationship still present, and now he, she, or them are dating somebody else. Or just living their best life in the streets, and you have a constant reminder in between the two of you. So there are two different directions with this. First, we have to deal with whether or not this is a parent that is involved and is actually co-parenting with you, or is this a co-parent that you want to be more involved, not only because of your emotional connection to them, but also because for the sake of your child, right? But they are being unavailable and they are being avoidant in parenting as well. For the feelings support, I think this will be consistent in both scenarios. Going back to what I was saying with the previous question about ghosting, coping when you're ghosted, and knowing what you deserve and what is available for you. I don't know what this person did or didn't do, how they presented in this relationship to where they were unavailable, whether or not they were not protective of you, whether or not they were unfaithful to you, whether or not emotionally they just abandoned you in that you cared more about what they were going through emotionally, but they didn't ever check in about you, that it was they were inconsistent in their kindness towards you and only came around and was nice to you when they needed something, that everything centered around what they wanted, that you as a love addict didn't really show everything that you needed and who you were because you were so focused on building this relationship with them and being the perfect partner for them and becoming needless and wantless so that you could be the good girlfriend or the good wife or the good whatever so that they would always be happy. And not even, a lot of times we don't realize that we've done that. We've just been groomed from childhood in our codependency and our parentification to become needless and wantless, just to become a shell, to become a blank slate, to merge into being whoever we need to be in whatever relationship. It happens so seamlessly. Like the way our bodies and our minds and our spirits are so wise and attuned in how to keep us safe that we can just pick up socially how to become whoever we need to be to make something work. How that is such an impressive adaptive skill that we needed as little people, and that there's never a point that we learn, and unless you're doing your work here, that, I get to shuck this and I get to step into my own, because you never had an opportunity to figure out who your own is. And also to know that the bad behavior and the crumbs that people give you is just that, and not how relationships can be, or, things would be just so much better if just this one issue was fixed. Like the fantasy we build around unavailable people and unavailable relationships keeps us so stuck. So for you, my love, I would encourage you to look at, sometimes it's helpful for us to externalize this. So that's why I'm going to give this example. And if it's not, I'll see if I can come around to another one as I'm teaching this. But I want you to look at your son or your daughter and imagine if they were in a relationship where they were treated like the person that you've had a child with is treating you. Is that the type of love that you would want for him or her? The way that they talk to you, the type of attention that they bring, how they are sometimes nice, sometimes not, how cold they can get when they're setting boundaries with you, how they may be manipulative, how they might be mean, how they might be so insecure and not able to be a leader and not be able to make clear decisions, how they might turn things around on you, how they may discard you, be all nice and shiny and bright with other people, but just discard you and treat you differently. Whatever is happening, is that what you would want for your child? If not, I want you to write out, what is it that you would want for your child? How do you want them to be loved? How do you want them to be treated? And write it out fully. And then once you write it out, that needs to become your love list. Because somehow when we are stuck in love addiction, we were able to so clearly see the love that everybody else deserves. But when it comes to us, we're asking for too much. And once you actually realize what you deserve and how much your ex-partner is not giving that to you, now you have a place of reckoning. Now you get to look at that list and see what comes up for you. One or two things are going to come up. Either it's going to be, oh my goodness, I can't believe I've been taking this. I deserve so much more. Or it's going to be, I know I've been taking this, but I can't help how I feel. I want them. And if that's the second one, and neither one is the right one, okay? Either one, they both have our own, no matter what path it is, you still have your journey and your work to do to reconcile that. But if it's the second one, then it's up to you to look into your internal background and look at your roots to say, okay, what is it in me that I'm familiar with this type of mistreatment and this type of abandonment? What is it? Where did this start? Where this type of undervaluing of myself and what I deserve is common for me. It's common enough to where I can overlook it and my heart still yearns for this type of connection with someone. And again, there's no judgment with that, because the only thing that you deserved as a little girl was to be loved and was to be taken care of and was to be cherished, and you did not get that. And so that's not on you to not know what that looks like and to not feel it in your body. That is on the people who were taking care of you or who were supposed to be taking care of you, that did not prime you and teach you and set you up to have healthy, abundant love be your standard. And so even though it's not on you that you caused it, you get to discover that. And you get to discover that for yourself and discover that for your child. And it's going to take work to do that. Okay. Of course, those are the things that I talk about here for a reason. There are the things that we talk about in the recovery school. There's whole sections on family work and family patterns and figuring out what you want and figuring out what you deserve and figuring out what your boundaries are. That's literally what all that self-work is about. Especially if you do the dating track, or do the dating bonus track. So that's available for you as a resource as well, if that is something that you're wanting to participate in. And you can learn about that by going to therecoveryschool.com, or you can go to blackgirlsheal.org and click on work with us. And there's links there that will direct you to the recovery school to read about it and join us. So once you're clear on your feelings towards that ex-partner and deifying them, because when we're caught up in fantasy about someone that we have feelings towards, not only can we, if we're love addicted, we can fall into giving them passes for things that we shouldn't. Also, it can make it really hard for us to be objective and focus on the relationship that we have in front of us and what the task is in front of us, which is parenting this child, versus how can we get back together, and maybe even using the child as an attempt to get back together, or withholding the child when we feel abandoned or hurt by them, to try to get back at them for how they hurt us, not realizing that all those games that you're playing, you are creating the same type of trauma patterns that you've experienced in your child, because your child needs to have a relationship with their parent, especially if their parent is involved. If their parent is abusive, if their parent is addicted, if their parent is all those negative things, which, we can make a list, that is a different story as far as how damaging that can be. But if you have a parent that their only bad behavior is that y'all broke up and that things didn't work out between you, your child needs to be able to have access to them if that is the only thing. And so the person who's in charge of managing their heartbreak is you, for the sake of yourself and for the sake of your child. So once you're clear on what you deserve, that this person is not the only person that can give that to you as well, that there is a big world with many people and you get to have bigger and better than what you had before, what that relationship gave you was the awareness that something good like this could exist, but you get to have that plus a version of it without the headaches, without the heartbreak, and with someone who wants you as much as you want them, right? Like, you get to have that. So once you start doing that work on your own, now it's time for you to decide, okay, what type of co-parenting relationship do I want to have? How do I create a helpful and safe environment for my child? And again, if you're working with a parent who is in this with you, then y'all get to decide and y'all get to talk about this. Y'all get to learn how to build a relationship not as ex-lovers, because sometimes as ex-lovers, shit goes sideways and it's really hard for you to have a decent conversation with them because of all the other baggage that y'all have had to work through between living together, sharing money, and all this other stuff. But if y'all met as colleagues on the street, or if y'all met as associates, y'all would be able to talk about things. If y'all were co-workers, y'all would be able to have a decent, respectful conversation. So now it's up to you to realize, okay, this is my coworker. If that's where you need to start, how would I have a relationship, a conversation with my coworker? Would I be hiding the schedule from him or her? Would I be playing peekaboo with the materials that we need to get done with tasks for work? No, because it's just going to make work harder on everybody, right? Like, what would you do? What do you currently do with people that you work with that you have to work on projects together? This is the ultimate project. And so bring all of the things that you already know how to do. We all know how to code switch. We all know how to put our feelings aside to talk with someone, even if we have beef with them. We all, going back to having a crush on a coworker, we also know how to work with somebody that we may have a crush on to get the job done, right? And be professional. Use those same skills that you already know how to do, and use that here if you're working with someone, if you're co-parenting with someone who is on the same page as you. Now, let's talk about someone who is unavailable to both you and your child, that you still have feelings towards, and you're asking about co-parenting tips with him, her, or them. So here I'm going to repeat what I said before, and I haven't said this yet, I'm going to defer to experts in this area. So the feedback I said before about dealing with your own emotions and heartbreak with this person, and the feelings of rejection, and disempower them and re-empower yourself by realizing you're the one that's in charge of your love story. You're the one who's in charge of your next steps. You're the one who's in charge of what you get to have, not him, her, or them. And the more you give them that access, the more they will have it, even if they don't want it. Sometimes we give people power who aren't even worried about us, and then we feel even more hopeless. And they realize that they're in charge of their life. You need to realize that you're in charge of your life as well. When it comes to your child, if you're very extreme in your love addiction, I have heard and I have seen people who try to use their children as bargaining chips to try to get attention and care and an audience with the co-parent. So you're pushing scheduled time, you're pushing a trade-off, not just because you want your child to see their parent, but also because you want to hear their voice. You want to see what's up with them. You want to see who they're dating, not, again, because this could be the future stepmother or stepfather or step-parent for your child, but because you're in your feelings about it. And I need you to know that your children can tell that you're doing that. First of all, your children know so much more about your emotions than you even know about your own emotions. They study you. They can sense your emotions in the room before you say anything. They can sense when mommy's sad. They can sense when you're not sad, and they know when they're being used. They know when they're being used. And they know when they're not getting all the information. And they know when there's trouble afoot, and they're going to try to do their best to make everything right, because as little children, they feel like they have more power in the world than they do, and they want to make mommy and daddy, or mommy and daddy happy. And so they're going to do everything in their little power to do that. And when they can't do that, they will personalize and internalize what is going on as being their fault. And if you do not want to continue that trauma for your children, you need to not use your child as a weapon. Your child is innocent in this. And whatever you need to work through is between you and your ex-partner, not them. And they deserve to have a carefree childhood where the only thing they need to worry about is school, their friends, what they want to wear, the new game that's coming out. They don't need to be involved in the enmeshment and chaos between mommy and daddy. Life is stressful enough without them having to be intertwined in things that are bigger than them that even y'all haven't even figured out yet. You get what I'm saying? So don't do that if you're doing that. Do your own internal work to work through that yourself. And understand also at the core, and this is for everybody, even if you're not co-parenting, if you're with someone who's unavailable, there's no amount of manipulation, of game playing, of threatening, of pushing and pulling that's going to make anybody change to do what you want them to do. At all. Ever. You're going to forever be trapped in this place where you think you have more power than you do, when that person is going to do what they want to do when they want to do it. They, even if they come back to the relationship, if they're coming back not because they are in love with you and because they want to be there, but because they were threatened or bullied to do that or tricked into doing that, then you are going to feel that resentment. You're going to feel that animosity. You're going to feel like third, fourth choice forever. And you deserve to feel better than that. But the main message I want to say to that is a lot of times when we're stuck in our love addiction or in our codependence, especially if we have been parentified in some way in our family, we grow up thinking that we can change and we're in charge of adult behaviors. We learn that from the age of 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, 9, 10. And we continue to carry that same unhealthy belief as adults when we never had that power as children. And the responsibility that we were given in that way should have never been in our laps, because we deserve to just have a childhood focused on ourselves and us growing and be figuring out who we were and our identity and learning math. Like that should have been our only responsibility versus navigating the complex social situation of adult people who haven't dealt with their trauma. So, but when we don't learn that, we start to be attracted to, or not even attracted to, when we're around other adults who are not taking their own emotional and physical responsibility for themselves. We think, because we learned early on, that all we have to do is push, manipulate, convince, talk with, play the game enough to get someone to do what we want them to do. And that includes parenting their own child. If that person does not want to parent their child, there is nothing that you can do to do that. And the more you continue to try to control him, her, or them, the more you're stressing yourself out. That is not me saying for you to not feel devastated about it, for you to not grieve and cry for your child, for you to not feel devastated and sad for yourself that you are having to do this on your own. It's not fair. It's not fair for you. It's not fair for your child. And that is emotionally hard enough. But when I add on to that, me trying to control a whole other grown adult person that I'm never going to be able to control, because if I was able to control them, we would probably still be together, and you wouldn't even be listening to this podcast episode, right? Because you would have made them act right. If you actually had that power, you wouldn't need to listen to this right now. But that's not reality, and that's not how human beings work. So it's for you to know that you deserve better, romantically, emotionally, partner-wise, and to do whatever work you need to with the scenarios I already gave for you to work through that yourself. And then surrender this fantasy and this power play that you've had to try to get this person to come around in whatever way. And then depending on your scenario, because there are so many different scenarios between unavailable parents, whether or not they're physically present, but they're financially not contributing, whether or not they're financially and physically gone, whether or not they're bringing their own people around to try to make you jealous. Like there are so many different scenarios for what can happen in this category of things. You need to find the right resources from people who help co-parents, whether or not it's a book, whether or not it's a therapist, whether or not it is a caseworker at a local family agency. But you need to find resources to help you navigate that stuff so that you can put in the right boundaries and protections in place for you and your child or children. Okay? That is my feedback for you for that. So that was a lot, y'all. I know that these scenarios are robust, and as always, I do my best to cover as many different tangents and paths in it that I can, but I know that there are some things that I probably missed. I know there's probably some unique circumstances that you were listening to that you might have been like, oh, what about this part? And I understand. Again, this episode is going to be almost an hour once it's posted. So I can't hit everything. That is why I do have the resources like the recovery school for you to go through, have that community support and work through it on your own. There's also access right now. I do have some spots open for private one-on-one calls that you can find on the website and schedule if you want to meet with me to talk about your specific situation. And I can do the coaching with you there in a private session. But I hope that for those of you where those are not options that you are able to do at this time, or you don't want to do at this time, I hope that this provided a good foundation for you to go and find more resources and more support in the area that you need. So that's it for now, y'all. I'm sending you so much love as always, and I'm happy to be back and be healthy. And I look forward to what the rest of 2023 has for us. So that's it for now. Sending y'all love, and as always, take care of yourselves. Hey, so thanks for listening to today's podcast. If you enjoy what you've learned, it doesn't have to stop here. You can check out the blackgirlsheal.org website and grab the worksheet for this week's episode or any of your other favorite episodes from our shop with an overview of the main points, healing circle discussion questions and journal prompts, and challenges that you can take with you into the week. Also, you can check out any of our other self-study and coaching programs, resources, and freebies to help you heal from the intimacy disorders of love addiction, love avoidance, love deprivation, and the trauma that causes it. The best time to start or restart your healing journey is now. We hope you enjoy all of these resources, and until next time, remember you are so loved, and we'll see you in the next episode. Take care of yourselves.